The thing about MTV when it was just music videos and nothing more was people would turn on MTV when there was nothing else on to watch. And they would keep watching and keep watching and keep watching until they got to a song they didn't like. And then they would change the channel, which meant you couldn't predict who was watching at any given time.
Right.
Nobody was getting into a pattern of watching. There was no habit forming anything. You could not point to this is when this number of people will be watching the show. This is when viewers between 18 and 25 will be watching the show.
Yeah. Just like
So,
C-SPAN.
Like exactly.
Yeah.
Like
By 1987, MTV had this really hard decision point where they all looked at each other and said, we need to start making shows.
yeah.
And the purpose of remote control was now we have a 30-minute block that we can point to and say, between this time and this time, we are airing a game show.
Mhm.
And anybody who wants to watch an MTV game show will be watching MTV between this time and this time.
Yeah.
And it worked, and that led to all the other shows that you named. It led to MTV becoming shows instead of just wall-to-wall music.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
the tragedy of television
Makes
is
sense.
it is a business, and they needed to make money off commercials, and that was the only way they could do it was to start offering shows instead of music videos.
I'm going to store that story in my head, and the next party I'm at, when I'm at beer number 2 or 3, you know what? I'm going to let him need it, and I'm not gonna credit him because I'm going to annoy everyone. I'll credit him a little bit. I'm gonna intentionally annoy somebody. That's a really good story.
And I work in television.
It just makes sense. Yeah. I wish I could travel back in time until 1995, Mike. Hey, quit whining. This is why.
But they didn't have to go 24 hours non-music video. I mean, they could have sprinkled it in or something. I don't know.
Also, the other thing that you want to point out too is, and this is something that you can kind of hold against the cable television industry is carriage fees, which is the fees that they get from cable companies for agreeing to put them on the air. The reason that TCM doesn't air commercials and everybody loves Turner Classic Movies for not airing commercials is because they completely survive off the fees that cable companies pay them for putting Turner Classic Movies on their cable package. And theoretically, you could do that with MTV. Theoretically, every cable channel could just air shows without commercials and just subsist off the carriage fees. But it's one of those, you have to maximize profit,
Right.
Just
Yeah.
making money, keep making money, and make.
Yeah.
In theory, you can argue that they didn't have to do that, but when you have bean counters saying, "Hey, we're making X number of dollars, but we should be making Y number of dollars," you have to do something.
And there were, I mean, it seems weird because there were fewer channels back then, right? Than now. So what was it, 50 channels and there's nothing on, or 57 channels, nothing on? Back then, that was like, oh my gosh, there's 50-something channels. Now it's like, even the most basic cable has what, 3,000-4,000?
Who has basic cable? I mean,
And that was
more people are moving to streaming.
Yeah.
And that was a point that they were making. We were asking them, have you ever considered rebooting Remote Control and bringing them back? And for exactly the reasons you just said, the feeling was that Remote Control could not possibly work if you brought it back now. Because in 1987, cable was just beginning to exist, but even, they were college-age contestants, but even in 1987, a college-age contestant had spent most of their life watching a television that had only 3 channels on it.
Yeah.
So there was watching television had commonality of experience.
Yeah.
Making Remote Control now, it would be very, very hard to build game material that the audience relates to, and even the 3 contestants in the studio, it would be hard to write material that all 3 contestants have a shot at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, shows like Flipper would never have a chance these days.
Never.
Anybody give me up about
Never. No big
Dolphin when there's like 8,000 other channels to watch.